So welcome everybody. We are here today for a forum on Special Olympics. We'll learn more about what Special Olympics is, how to get involved, as well as some unique services that Special Olympics offers. We are joined by Tim Flynn with Special Olympics New York. He is the Regional Director of Downstate Program. And I don't have information for Caitlin, so I don't know, Tim or Caitlin, do you want to introduce Caitlin?
Sure. I'm the Senior Director of Development for Special Olympics New York. And our office is located in New York City, but we work out of Long Island and New York City too, and all over New York.
Great. Thank you. Okay, well, we can get started. So Tim, I don't know if you're going to lead first or if it's Caitlin.
Sure. Okay. All right. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep, we got it.
Oh, great. Well, first of all, thank you, Pam, and thank you, ACA, and welcome, parents. This is about giving you an opportunity to understand what's available. A lot of people have heard our name.
Lost the volume.
Excuse me? Can you hear me?
You're good, Tim. You're good, Tim.
Okay.
The volume went away when it said you started using your earpiece.
Thank you. And so again, just trying to give parents an understanding of opportunities, understanding of resources, what's out there, what's available. And a lot of people know who we are. They've heard our name before, but not really sure all that we do. And we are so much more than what people perceive us to be. And so I want to give you a little taste of what we do, who we are, what's available, maybe in your community, the idea of building programs that cater to your child's needs. There might not be the perfect fit out there currently. That doesn't mean there can't be. And we want to make sure that you are armed and ready and prepared to make some decisions about what's available. We're a sports program, but we're so much more than that. And so I want to take this opportunity just to provide an outline, ask questions, as Pam said in the chat, but we'll certainly save some time at the end as we go through this. So what to expect in this presentation. So we have, we'll go through the basics, a quick history, and then importantly, an overview of what our program options are. We're year round, 365 days a year. And so there's opportunity somewhere at some point. And if there isn't, as I said, we can always help build and create what a typical year would look like. And then our next steps, how you can get involved, how to get your children involved. And then we'll save time for that Q&A. So if you could, in the chat, it'll help us, but unless, Pam's going to certainly share with us, but your name, your loved one's name and age, if you live in the borough, and then if you have any experience with Special Olympics, that'll kind of help us paint a picture of who you are and maybe where we can find opportunity. All right, so the basics. The history of Special Olympics all started in 1968. Eunice Kennedy Shriver, our founder, had this vision of opportunity for people with intellectual disabilities. Her sister, Rosemarie Kennedy, had an intellectual disability and wanted her to thrive. She was an athlete herself, and sports was her catalyst of change. And so she built up this beautiful, unbelievable organization. And here we are, over 50 years later, with over 3 million athletes worldwide. And so again, so much more than people realized. We are 26 US states and Canada, 22 sports, and we are ready to help you. The structure, you'll hear acronyms, a lot of agencies, a lot of programs use acronyms. We're no different. SOI, Special Olympics International. Our headquarters are located in Washington, D.C. for the global structure of Special Olympics. In New York, we have 9 regional offices that make up New York State. And as Caitlin mentioned, downstate, we have Long Island and New York City. We have an office in Midtown Manhattan and an office in right on 110 in Long Island. So wherever you live, we want to make sure that we can provide opportunity. We're part of that global chapter for Special Olympics International within the structure of Special Olympics North America. And part of what I'd like to do today is help you kind of break down those misconceptions of who we are, what we do, when we do it. A lot of people will often ask, when are the Special Olympics? Implying it's a one-time thing, when in fact it's year round, as I mentioned, 22 sports, 3 different seasons, all the time. There's a team right now somewhere training and practicing. And what our athletes do in those training sessions during those practices is they defy expectations. You know, these athletes here that you're looking at don't look like any athlete or any person that needs any charity. They are well equipped athletes ready to compete. And we have opportunity beyond the field and beyond the court. And you'll see in one of those pictures, we're ringing the bell at the opening. We're ringing the opening bell at the New York Stock Exchange. Opportunities that maybe doesn't exist without us. We have a lot of relationships, a lot of support, and we are here to provide opportunity that doesn't exist. Again, whether we build it or attach you to it, we have programs, and our athletes are, again, defying all of those expectations. So I want to share with you a video. Just let me know if you can hear the sound.
Good.
I don't hear the sound. Hold on.
We can hear the sound on our side.
Oh, perfect.
I can hear it too.
Let's do it.
So you heard that awesome video, and you saw that unified approach. One of the many program options we have is a program called Unified, and it's many different layers. But essentially, what we want to do is, if you think your child's school could use a boost in their physical education curriculum, we want to help. We provide programs on schools all over the world, enhancing their physical education curriculum. What that does is create opportunities of inclusion, of acceptance, where during recess, kids with and without intellectual disabilities are playing together. We're providing those strategies and those resources to schools to have inclusive opportunities, helping the school structure a program that's inherently inclusive. Those are things that we could do within the school system. And then after school programs during the week, on the weekends, finding a program, finding a court, finding a field. These are the things that we can do to help families connect with the community, to help families connect their child with friends and social opportunities. This is what we do. And so our program options, within that idea of program, we have this mantra, and we call it we are the game for life. And we start as young as 2 years old. And we have a program called Young Athletes, which is for 2 to 7-year-olds. And then we have everything in between, as I mentioned, during school, in physical education programs, during downtime, during movement breaks, throughout elementary, middle, and high school. We are providing full curriculums. We're enhancing school programs. We have relationships with colleges where when they graduate, they can also start to connect with other peers. And then we have athletes in the community until they want to retire. We have athletes in their 80s. And so again, the game for life. We are here when they transition from one school to another. We are here when they transition from high school into adult. And we hope to be part of their IEP. We want to connect with their life plan. We want to be part of the strategy so you can start to make decisions about what's best for your child. We're here, we can help, and we have opportunity. So the uniqueness of Special Olympics from other sports organizations, and we're not here to say we're better. We're just here to say this is what we do. We want to be as transparent as we can so you as the parent can make that decision. Special Olympics is different in that it's authentic and it's real. It's genuine competition for athletes. It's more similar than different from other sports organizations because of that authenticity. We have a national governing body of rules that we follow. There's a variety of sports for all levels of ability, from the most beginner to the most advanced and everything in between. And we want to help design a program that fits those needs. We want to make sure that we're setting those athletes up for success. We're not just attaching them to a program that doesn't make sense. We don't want to put 10-year-olds with 40-year-olds. We want to put athletes together where it makes sense, where they're playing, competing, having fun, socializing, and creating those organic relationships. And so we group athletes according to their ability through a process called divisioning, where the coach who we train understands and learns and assesses the athlete's ability. And then they accumulate a score, and those scores then are grouped together. So they're playing against equitable competition. They're competing against their peers of similar ability. And so it's fair. And so again, because it's true, authentic competition, and rules are rules, and if the ball hits the line, it's out of bounds. But they're playing in an environment that suits their ability. And that's our job, is to educate and train those coaches so they are armed and ready to run those practices fairly, evenly, and able to include all different levels of ability. We award athletes who compete. When they compete, we have non-competitive programs like that young athletes program. It's more of a sport play. And again, trying to figure out what makes the most sense. And our programs are laid out in this way. Our young athletes program, as I mentioned, is for 2 to 7-year-olds, because when you turn 8 is when you become eligible for competition. And so just because you have a birth date and you turn 8 years old doesn't automatically mean you're ready now for strategy, structure, game play. And so there may be athletes who aren't yet ready. And so to bridge that gap, we have a program called Developmental Sports, which is for 6 to 12-year-olds. It becomes more sport specific, where young athletes, instead of soccer or basketball, they're simply dribbling, passing, shooting. The foundational skills that they learn to play the sport is done through young athletes. And then developmental sports is when we start to focus on more sport specific skills. Now they're starting to play soccer in a non-competitive environment because they're still learning, but now we can focus on the sport. And then as they grow and age and develop, then they can start to go into the sports training and competition. And every sport that we offer, whether it's soccer, basketball, softball, we have a level called skills. And again, just because you're ready and just because you're getting older doesn't mean you're ready for a game, a 5-on-5 basketball games, offense, defense, strategy, spatial awareness. We have a level called skills. It becomes more individualized, and they start to learn the skills of the sport, that passing. We have stations where they do a shooting station, a passing station, and there's structure and rules within each of those stations so they can still compete against athletes of similar ability. The Unified Champion Schools model follows that idea of inclusion, follows that idea of acceptance. We have built-in strategies, we have built-in lesson plans, we have built-in curriculums that can help a school, help classrooms become more unified. There's 3 layers that make up a Unified Champion School, and as we start to develop that, we can help a school really start to understand what it means to get the general ed students, the special ed students, those students in the community with an intellectual disability, maybe siblings or friends without an intellectual disability, all coming together, playing together as peers. That is done through our Unified Champion Schools approach. And then to give you a little understanding of how vast we are and what we do, and how people may or may not necessarily know what we do, we have a health and wellness program organized through what we call our Healthy Athletes. And Special Olympics is the world's largest healthcare provider for people with intellectual disabilities. We train medical professionals to work with our population of athletes so they can understand verbal and visual cues and talk to our athletes and communicate with the families so they have the care that they need. Because at the end of the day, if they're not healthy and not at their best, they're not going to compete and train at their best. And that's what we want for our athletes. So that young athletes program can be done in schools, but it can also be done at home. You can do it in your living room. You can do it in your backyard, on your driveway. We have an entire curriculum that we can hand over to families where they can start to do these movements and these activities at home to help you and your child bond, to help you and your child move and stay fit. We have all these programs. And as I mentioned, 2 to 7-year-olds, it introduces the basic sports skills like running, kicking, throwing, provides children of all different abilities the same opportunities to advance in those developmental milestones. It's not sport specific, as I said, but it is about the foundational skills of sport. And then those resources that I mentioned for the schools, we also have resources for families. We can give you an entire guide, an activity guide that you can use at home. Love to talk to you about that and how it can be done. The program can be done in your home, or it can be done in the community with maybe some of your child's friends or peers in school. We can build an after-school program. All of these resources would be at your disposal that we can help you with. And then that developmental sports model, that next step for the 6 to 12-year-olds, still non-competitive, but it's designed to support a transition from young athletes into that competitive sports Special Olympics programming. So developmental sports can help them now start to focus on sports that they like. Do they really like soccer, but maybe aren't yet ready for that soccer game? And so we want to start to build up those skills. Badminton, basketball, cycling, floorball, soccer, swimming, volleyball, tennis. These are all sports within that developmental sports model that we have lesson plans for and curriculums that can help. And then as they start to advance and as they start to get older, once they turn 13 or maybe even younger, when they're 8 and ready, then we can start to look into the sports training and competition. 23 sports, 3 different seasons, talking about. Then within that understanding, we also have a program called, another acronym, MATP, which stands for the Motor Activity Training Program. And that is for our profoundly disabled population, those that would be unable to perform those basic skills. We still have programming for them. We still have opportunity for them, full curriculums, all of those lesson plans that can help either an agency individual or an individual at home getting the care that they need at home. We have programs that can help families there as well. And so that's the training piece, the practices that are taking place on a weekly basis, gearing up for competition. And then when competition comes, we're following our sports rules, which is outlined, as I mentioned, by our national governing body. And we have ability levels or groupings of ability levels for everyone. And so part of our coaches training is them understanding all of that structure. How do they run a practice? What does the competition mean? What do they need in order to run a successful practice? And then that Unified Champion Schools, it's a strategy to activate youth, engage educators, and promote school communities of acceptance and inclusion where all young people are agents of change. If a school can do unified sports, that can lead to inclusive youth leadership, where we empower those students to be the voice and to be to be those agents of change, to help with strategies, implement some really cool ideas into some campaigns, anti-bullying, spread the word to end the word. And then that leads to whole school engagement, providing those organic opportunities for all students to come together. That's something that we want to move forward with, that we're starting to build in a lot of schools all over the state. And then I mentioned that health and wellness, designed to ensure athletes and partners, and the partner athlete is part of that unified program. Our athletes are those with an intellectual disability. The partner is someone without the intellectual disability. So it's designed to ensure athletes and partners can perform at their best on and off the field. Healthy athlete medical screenings provide inclusive health services that otherwise may not be available. So at our competitions, when we're running these big events that we have, we will have healthy athletes as part of the day. So when they have some downtime and they're not competing, they can go through the healthy athlete stations and have a medical professional provide a screening, provide some health care. We have optometrists through our opening eyes discipline of healthy athletes, where our athletes are getting free eyeglasses. They're getting sports goggles if they need them. We do what we call a med fest, where we have a doctor do an actual physical, whether it's a school physical or Special Olympics requires medical forms signed by a doctor to participate. We can have a medical professional do those screenings. And so lots of different opportunities through that health and wellness. And as I mentioned, the largest healthcare provider, because we want to make sure, again, that our athletes are healthy and that they're ready to compete and participate. So Special Olympics trains these medical professionals as what we call healthy athlete clinicians. And only those clinicians are the ones then who come to our competitions, who provide that oversight to the athletes. So a typical year, what does that look like? We have our fall season that we are currently in, which is July through October, sometimes November. And the sports that we're offering are equestrian, soccer, softball, bocce, golf, and then cross-country running. We do have competitions. We have a Long Island Equestrian Show. The Long Island Fall Classic will be in September, September 23rd. The Long Island Bocce Invitational. Bocce is a really up-and-coming sport. And then we have our Inclusion Cup / Fall Invitational at Randall's Island on October 14th. And that will, each season, the fall, winter, and summer, ends with our fall state games. We have our fall state games up in Glens Falls, New York on October 20th. And that will kind of round out our fall season this year. So right now we're in our planning stages, getting teams up and running, getting those permits for the fields, getting those insurance certificates out, finding the fields, finding the gyms, certifying coaches, getting programs up and running is what we're doing now. And then we go right into the winter season from November through February with floor hockey, snowshoe, skiing, figure skating, and competitive fitness. And actually, we have to update this. We're now offering floor ball, which is similar to floor hockey, but it's a kind of like it's a plastic ball, a little more safe, but a lot of fun. And so still offering opportunity throughout the year. We have a Long Island Champions Challenge event, Peter Aquilone Winter Classic, which we do at the Jacob Javits Center. We have another competition in Hudson Valley up in Capitol. So athletes can also take the bus to these competitions. Excuse me. And those bus rides can be certainly a bonding experience. We take athletes all over, certainly all over New York, all over downstate, all over New York City, all over Long Island. But then we also have opportunities to different regions. And then our summer season rounds out the year. And this is certainly the season in which we have the most athletes. Basketball, bowling, gymnastics, powerlifting, swimming, tennis, track, and volleyball kind of round out all of those 22 sports that I mentioned. And then basketball skills, basketball and swimming we do at Fieldston in the Bronx. We have a basketball tournament at Fordham, bowling competitions in Queens and Staten Island. And our Metro Games is one of our signature events where we're doing track and field, tennis, and powerlifting. So some swim competitions. And then again, culminating in those summer state games, which we do in Ithaca. Well, for this coming year in 2024, in June, will be in Ithaca. So some programs that we do offer, like young athletes, like our health and wellness, Unified Champion Schools. We have an athlete leadership where we have a council of athletes who have been identified as leaders who help us make decisions, who help us become better for our athletes, become better for our coaches. Their input becomes something that we stand behind, and they help us create better opportunities. So we have athlete leaders who then go back to their teams, teach their peers what they've learned. And so young athletes, health and wellness, unified champion schools, those can be done anytime, anywhere, all year round, in the gym, outside in the field. And then that MATP program, as I mentioned, for our profoundly disabled population, we can certainly program them. And so what are the next steps? Without coaches, we cannot run our programs. And our coaches are volunteers. So I'm not necessarily asking you. What I'm asking is, who do you know that would want to maybe coach? So we need to identify coaches in order to build programs, in order to sustain our programs and to build that sustainability. So we would set up a coach training, which we would run. And then once you have coaches identified, once the coaches training is in place, athletes will come. We can help. There's always athletes looking for more programs. We have athletes traveling to the end of the earth to find a program that makes sense. We'd love to build a program nearby. And so there's always athletes looking to join somewhere. We register with a team. There is athlete paperwork, as I mentioned, that medical form that needs to be done. And then the coaches fill out a roster. And then once we are up and running, then they attend one of those competitions that I mentioned, depending on the season that you're in. So to join a program, you need, or your child needs, an athlete registration, which includes the medical form signed by a doctor. So we certainly could send that over. Again, volunteers and coaches trainings are invaluable to our programs. We cannot survive without them. But we're also looking, you can work with our office to help you find the right program. Where is that? Is there one nearby? Maybe, maybe not. If there isn't, again, let's help you build one. If there is, we can just connect you right to that program and you're off and running, and we start that training. So the coach education, there are 2 levels in order to become a coach. Level 1 is the basic assistant, or what we call a sport assistant level, the level 1 coach. You do an online portion of the training through our coach portal, where you do a general orientation to Special Olympics, and then you have a portion called Coaching Special Olympics Athletes. There is a concussion training and adaptive behaviors, what to do, what not to do, and how to protect our athletes. That's level 1. It's a self-paced online training that you would do if you wanted to take a step towards becoming that coach or being more involved in the program. You could become a level 1 sport assistant. Then the level 2 coach is required for all head coaches. So it's level 1. You would still do the level 1 portion online. And then what's different is, depending on the sport, we would then train you in that sport, whether it's basketball or soccer. We would give you those sport-specific tools and understanding so you're ready to run a practice. So that's what we're looking for in order to build these programs, sustain these programs that are already in place. We're always looking for coaches. The athlete registration packet, as I mentioned, is that form in which you, the parent, fill out and then have a doctor sign, which then you return to us in the office so we have a copy. We then ask every parent to keep a copy for themselves, because then you are able to then reproduce it to give it to the coach. Because every coach, and hopefully your child is doing 1 sport a season, 2 sports here, and they're doing multiple sports, because every one of those coaches is going to need to have a copy of that registration form. So we asked for a copy in the office so we can then enter it into our system. And then we ask that the parent keeps a copy so they can produce it and provide it to the coach.